morning and welcome to NWEA, Map Growth Basics for Teachers, sponsored by the Oklahoma Public School Resource Center. My name is Jean Potter and I'll be your guide for this session. We're looking specifically today in this particular unit at the Map Growth Student Profile Report. It's a new report and we're going to be looking specifically at growth goals. We've looked at Dean's growth over time and we've seen that he was high and then he dropped down. And we know that we need to have a conversation with Dean or with any other student to set some goals that are appropriate to keep him on track and moving forward. So to do that, I'm going to click on the two small arrows in this growth goals section here. And this will expand this section so that we can talk specifically and concentrate on growth goals. It again shows Dean's performance over the last few tests, and we notice that he's dropped down quite a bit. And as a teacher, I'm aware, I've talked to Dean, and I know he can probably do better. Maybe this was just a bad day, but we want this growth to, at this point, I want to not just maintain, which is what this is going to show me, the winter projection and the fall projection from NWEA is going to maintain where he is, but we want him to move back up to where he was performing before. I can do this in a couple of different ways. Let's say that I want Dean to get back up at least into the high average. So I can go over here to the goal RIT score, and I can set a new goal. Instead of 219, I can set a new goal of, I'm going to say 224. Click outside that. It will change the amount of growth that Dean is expected to do. And it will also show me over here visually that, yes, that will put him back up into the high average, just barely, but it puts him up and it's on the right track to getting him back where he needs to be. If that's a goal that both Dean and I are comfortable with, I can set an action plan. So let's say that Dean is going to go to peer tutoring 2 days a week. And so that would be the goal and the action plan. I set that goal and it shows it here. So it shows what that goal is. That's temporary. So it goes back to the regular projection, but it will keep that winter goal that I set. If I hover over it, I can see that I've set a goal that's different than that. And it also gives me that information up here in the top so that I know that there's a new goal, what the typical growth is, and that there's an action plan that I can access. Let's look again, though, and let's say, well, let's look even further out at spring. So I'm going to set a goal now for spring. And in this case, instead of setting a goal for spring using the RIT score, I'm going to choose to set it by percentile. So I'm going to say that I know that he's a good student, and I know he usually scores up about the 79th percentile. Set that in, click outside it, and that's going to shows me where he would be. It's a growth goal now of 233. Oh, that's really close to being back up into the average area, into the high area instead of the high average. So let's put 2 more points on that just to see what happens. Let's put 235, click outside, and 235 indeed gets him up into that high average. So we can have those conversations. What if you just did 1 more point? Or what if you went down 1 point? What's this going to do? I do get a note that this is higher growth than is usual and that it's going to require appropriate support. So it reminds me as a teacher that this is a team effort. It's just not all on Dean's shoulders, and reminds Dean too. So in this case, we're going to do continue tutorials. Type, it would help. And something else that he's going to do. And I'm just going to type something in, and I'm going to set this goal. Again, there we go. So I now have goals for both winter and for spring. I know that it's higher than growth. I have an action plan, and it maintains this so that I can see that by spring, I should be up in the high average. But maybe that's not as important to me as knowing what he might get on the ACT. I can put in the growth linking study, and I can see that at 235, he's going to be pretty comfortably in projected to score on track for 20 at 24. I could change that to the linking study, which was for the state testing. In my case, it's generic, and I can see that he's also pretty comfortable to score advanced on the spring test. So those are things that I can have a conversation with Dean. I can preserve that so we can go back at it again and we can continue to have that conversations. And then I can move to the math and do the same thing. I can talk about where do you need to be for math, for language usage. Once my conversation is done during this session with Dean, I can click back on the X and I can go back to the home page and begin to talk about other things. I can see that for math, we didn't set any goals, so there's nothing here that gives me any information about goals, reminds me that we need to have another conversation. However, for reading, those goals are set and I can begin to look at those. So just a lot of different things you can do with the student profile report, interactive, great for visiting with parents too, so that they know kind of what your goals are and why you're setting those goals and why you're expecting this kind of performance from their students. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate your attendance.